Speed RTR right here in our comments, Clint, with Alabama's struggles on OL being a theme, why hasn't both quick and slow screens been more utilized? Seems like the pass plays often are longer developing. I think Speed RTR is onto something there.
Yeah, it's definitely something that I think we can all agree on that they should be utilizing more. Now, going back and watching some of the early stuff, like against MTSU, from the first play of the game, there was a quick screen to Isaiah Bond. I thought it was a very well designed play. It had some success, but Isaiah Bond had to dip down to be able to catch it. And I think the closer to the line of scrimmage that you get, the the more problems that you have as far as Jalen Milroe's mechanics and accuracy. And so I think maybe, and I'm speculating here. I don't know if this is the case because I've been asking the same question myself. Why aren't they doing this more? It makes no sense. If teams are teeing off on you in certain situations, try to catch them off guard. If they're sending a bunch of run blitzes, screens and stuff would be effective against that kind of thing. And you're just not seeing it. And my only guess at this point, either it's for lack of a better word, incompetency at offensive coordinator, which I do think that Tommy Rees has been limiting in some ways. I also think he's very handcuffed in what he can run, but I don't think that he's to the point where he doesn't understand that that would be an effective strategy to utilize. I think more so it's, in those types of plays, it's not just running a play to run a play to try to get them to back off. If you have success doing it, then that's when the defense starts backing off and it starts, they have to change how they're playing you. If Milroe's not putting the football, not only if he can't get it to the guy, but if he's having trouble placing it in a way where the receiver can create yardage after the catch, and you're not, it's not very successful, then maybe you don't feel comfortable running that stuff. That's the only thing I can think of. It certainly could be something else that I'm not thinking of, but it's a great point, and you would certainly like to see them implement a little bit more of that if possible. But I also will say we've been talking about more design quarterback runs, and we haven't seen that to this point either. Could be injury related, or it could be, just the fact they don't want to do it. But regardless, I feel like there are multiple things that these guys could be doing to kind of help themselves, and they're just not doing it. And I think there's a reason for that.
Yeah, Jimmy, that's been my thought after about 5 or 6 starts now for Jalen Milroe, is it must be something they're just not comfortable with, or it's
Right.
something that maybe Jalen's not comfortable with. And that's the only thing I can come up with, because how many years in a row has the quick game been a central piece to the Alabama offense? Not the Tommy Rees offense, not the Lane Kiffin offense or Sark offense. The Alabama offense, going through various offensive coordinators, has had that quick game component. This one, it's almost nil. Now, if you consider the second half of Texas A&M and what we saw Alabama come out and do in the third quarter of that game as the quick game, that's fine. That to me was more of a controlled passing attack. That was almost West Coast in nature, is what it felt like. But to Clint's point and to our viewers' point, I'm talking about smoke screens, getting the ball out quick. But you know what else we don't really see much of either? Are jet sweeps, easy touches. You got guys like Bond and Prentice and these guys that can run. And I'm not the biggest jet sweep fan in the world, okay? But I understand how it can add to the stress that a defense is experiencing. And when you go back and watch Tennessee's game against Florida a month or so ago down in Gainesville, give Napier and that offensive staff credit, because they came out and did some of that stuff. They got east-west early, gave Tennessee some different things to look at, then got Etienne going the way they wanted to get him going. What do you think about all that, Jimmy?
Well, as far as the screens go, again, we can only guess because we've seen so little of it. But just in terms of, to me, what logically is the answer is they've tried this in practice and it doesn't look good or doesn't work well. That's what makes the most sense to me. Like, why doesn't it work well? When you're throwing screens, there's so many different types of screens, whether smoke screen, bubble screen, wide receiver screen, the little toss to the running back. And one guess I have here is, Milroe, to me, in terms of what type of quarterback he is, in terms of what he's really good at, and we see this with the deep ball, he's sort of a fastball guy. When Milroe's got to put a ton of effort in a throw, whether it's a deep throw, whether it's a high velocity throw. That to me is him at his best. He's a fastball pitcher. That's what he can do. That's what got him recruited. Not everybody's got that arm that he's blessed with. But I think, in terms of what I would call the off-speed pitches, the changeup, the curveball, the sinker, the repertoire of pitches isn't there for him yet. And I'm wondering if maybe on some of these screens, there's not quite as much confidence. And I'm not even just talking about accuracy. I think we have all seen a lot of football to realize that if you float a screen and it's just floating up there against SEC speed, that's not just a problem, it's a pick six.
Yeah.
And I think that maybe, and again, this is a guess on my part, that maybe they're just not really comfortable with making those tight throws around the line of scrimmage where you're not just talking about a disaster, you're talking about, the other team's band is playing, when you really mess that up. But hopefully it's something that can be added. I've talked about since the beginning of handing the job to Milroe back in week 4 or week 4, that you start with a base and then you add to it. And hopefully he can keep up with that. Each week you're just adding stuff until you've eventually got a really thick play sheet over there. And hopefully it's something they can add as he gains confidence and gets better and better. Because I see a kid that's getting better and better and better. Improvement's never linear, but he is getting better. Maybe that's something they can add late because I think it'd be super effective.
Yeah, the traditional screen game. Sorry, Clint.
That's okay.
There's other things involved there too. I mean, you got coordination with the offensive line. We can look at that group and speculate that they've never been, as I can recall it, a big running back screen team with Nick Saban, unless you're talking about swinging it out to TJ Yeldon in Baton Rouge in 2012. That one obviously stands out down in Red Stick, but year in and year out, especially in the last 6, 7, 8 years, they've been more perimeter oriented with the quick throws and trying to win with one. And you know what else they haven't been the last couple of years? A really good perimeter blocking team.
Right.
I mean, you can say what you want about Judy and Devontae and all that. Those guys blocked for each other. They got after it as perimeter blockers. I haven't seen that as much of late.